Well, somebody else can start today.
सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning. Okay, so we are on the verse number 40 of Aparoksha Anubhuti. So please keep yourself unmuted. We'll chant verse number 40. Evam dehadvayat anyah
एवं देहद्वयादन्यः
atma purusha ishwarah
आत्मा पुरुष ईश्वरः
सर्वात्मा सर्वरूपश्च
सर्वात्मस्वरूपश्च
सर्वातीतोऽहमव्ययः Okay, I just muted you all. Now, the discussion was basically how any Shastra begins by pointing out the differences between Atma and Anatma, which we call Atma Anatma Vivekaha, which is also known as Jiva Swarupa discussion. Okay, so therefore it is Evam. Evam means in this manner. In what manner? As discussed in the last 22 or 23 verses, in this manner, Atma Anyaha, I the Atma am different from Deha Dvaya, from the two bodies. Which two bodies? Physical and subtle bodies. Sukshma and Sthula Shariram, Atma is different from. Now note that Shankaracharya has not discussed the Karana Shariram. What could be the reason? All Mananam questions. When you say Atma Anyaha, why doesn't he say Deha Traya? Why doesn't he say from three bodies? Why does he say from two bodies?
Because these two bodies are very experiential to us, so mostly we misunderstand or identify with these two bodies.
That is one answer. Anybody else?
The Karana Sharira is not anything different because it includes these two Shariras and thereby it's just a inclusion of these two. So
Very
by
good, very
negating
good.
these two, you
Correct.
negate the...
Absolutely. So the seed is always the potential form of the tree or the plant, right? And therefore, whatever is there in Sthula and Sukshma is already there in potential in Karma Shariram. Therefore, Shankara does not feel the need to discuss, right? Karanam and Karyam, the cause and the effect, are always the same. One is Vyaktaha, one is Avyaktaha. Only the state is different, like water and ice. One is in the solid state, one is the liquid state. And to take it further, steam is in the vapor state. All three are only the same. So, whatever you call Karma Shariram is the Avyakta form, the unmanifest form of the other two. And therefore, he does not think it is necessary to say But we have to sum up saying, therefore, I, the Atma, am different from Sthula Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, as well as Karana Shariram. That is the correct understanding. And then Atma, I, the Atma, Purushaha. So Purushaha has to be understood as Purayati Sarvam iti Purushaha. That which pervades everything is Purushaha. And that's what it means there. Atma Purushaha. I pervade everything. And because of this all pervasion, that is why the bodies are alive. They depend upon me because I control the very life principle. And therefore, Ishvaraha. I am the controller also. But I am an independent principle. Therefore, we must remember our understanding that consciousness does not depend upon matter. Consciousness is an independent entity, but anatma, matter, is a dependent entity, right? And therefore, the jiva, which is a mixture, who is a sentient being, depends both upon matter and upon consciousness. Then, Ishvara also, remember, is the consciousness principle, and therefore Ishvaraha is the controller, and the controlled entity is called Ishitam. So Ishvaraha Ishitam, controller and controlled. Then the next word is Sarva Atma. Sarva Atma is Sarva Atma, which means I am this Atma not in my own body. I am the Atma behind every body. And that again we have to say, I am the one Atma which is powering all the bodies, which is pervading all the bodies. You cannot say that different Atmas are there for different bodies. There is only one consciousness principle which is all pervading and therefore enlivening every other body, right? Just like space in this room and other rooms. We can count many rooms, we can count many houses, but you cannot count space. The rooms and houses are multiple, but the space is only one. And Sarva Rupascha. So Sarva Rupam here is indicating many bodies. There are many bodies, but there is only one Sarvatma. So I am that one consciousness principle, that one Sarvatma behind all the bodies. And remember that the bodies which function because of the consciousness principle, the multiple bodies which function because of the one consciousness principle, they get different names depending not on the consciousness principle, but depending upon the bodies. And therefore, some people are human beings, some people are tigers, some people are worms, some people, when I say people, I mean jivas. Some jivas are humans, some jivas are elephants, some jivas tigers, some jivas are worm, some jivas are plants. The bodies are many, the bodies have different attributes, but the consciousness is only one. Therefore, I am the one Atman, which appears as many Jivatmans, but we have to remember that the multiplicity belongs to the containers, the bodies, and not to the content, which is Atman. Then Sarva Atitaha, Sarvatitaha, beyond everything. Now, when we normally say beyond, you say, for example, that, the shop is beyond here. So you are talking about a distance, a spatial distance. But in this particular usage in Shastram, that understanding of spatial distance is incorrect. Why? When you say Atma is... Yeah, please go ahead.
It's not space limited.
It is not space limited is one way of putting it. But remember that
It
Atma
is
cannot be spatially...
Sarvagataha. So
Sarvagata. Atma cannot be spatially away from anything. When you say something is Sarvagataha, it is there everywhere. So nothing can be away from that Atma. Atma cannot be away from anything. So the word beyond, Atitaha, has to be understood differently. How will you understand it?
It refers to the time frames.
No, it's beyond the states which we are talking about, the gross, stula, and the
Correct. So, means what?
Gunatita.
Gunatita is, guna simply means bodies. So,
Okay.
Gunatita is also beyond gunas. But what is the understanding to be given to Atitaha? If you are saying that Atitaha is not in terms of far away from or spatially different, then what should be the meaning given?
Beyond
So
past, present, and
Avikari.
Avikari.
beyond the
Avikari.
Would it
No
mean that
changes. Beyond Sarvavyapak, Avikari.
Does it mean that nothing can touch it?
impact it or affect it?
Absolutely.
Beyond the Indriyas.
So it is present in every form and yet it transcends them all.
It's present everywhere and transcends them all, which means what? Which means that somebody said it just now. Nothing
can touch it.
It is
Right.
not affected by anything.
It is not affected by anything. What is the Sanskrit word?
Asangaha.
Asang. So therefore,
Asangat.
atitam here, atitatvam here is equal to asangatvam. Atitaha is asangaha. Atma is unaffected by anything. So this is how you interpret. You take the context, you take what you understand, and then you interpret. If you interpret as simply spatial distance, then you are saying Atma and Anatma, there can be a distance. They are together. But here it means it is all pervasive and yet it is not touched by anything. It is not affected by anything. Therefore, Atma is Asangaha is the meaning of Atita over here. Right? Then, and because of that only, sorry, yes, go ahead.
Raviji, a lot of the verses from this Aparoksha Anubhuti remind me, because every week when we do it, they remind me of the Brahmajnanavali, because in that Adi Shankara exactly uses this same asangoham.
All everywhere you will find the same thing.
Yeah.
Ultimately, in fact, this particular text is a text which is meant for Maranam and Nididhyasanam. Therefore, all that you have studied, you will find those ideas being repeated. That is why these texts are very important, because if you just commit them to memory, it can be used for Nididhyasanam.
Right.
Really speaking, I'm explaining in detail, but it need not be. This text is supposed to be done by somebody who is already familiar with the basic structure of Vedanta. Therefore, as you just go through this, all that you have studied, that should be, popping up into your mind. Okay. Then because of the asangatvam only, aham avyayaha. I do not change, avyayaha, free from decay, which means shadvikara rahitaha. I am free from all the shadvikaras. And by negating decay, avyayaha is decay. What is the name used in shadvikara for avyayaha?
Apekshati.
Apekshati. Okay, apekshati. So apeksha means shaya. Shaya means to decay. So here the name shaya is replaced by avyayaha. And therefore here aham avyaya, when the teacher is saying, he is negating that particular shaya of shadvikara. And when you say one of the shadvikaras is negated, the teacher is negating all 6 vikaras. And therefore that you have to understand from this last line. It is nirvikaraha only. Okay. Now we go to verse number 41. Let us chant together. Ityatmadehebhagena panchasyaiva satyata
Panchasyaiva satyata
yathokta tarkashastrena tata kim purusharthata.
tata kim purushartha.
Okay, now with the 40th verse, last verse, the Atma Anatma Viveka. which basically means the study of the Jivatma is over. Okay. And now, what are the three things? Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara. So, Jiva, Ishvara, we looked at just now. Now there is a big inquiry to be done. What is the nature of the Anatma, the Jagat? That is to be now studied. So, in the second part of this study, it is also equally important. Let us recall, Jiva is a mixture of Atman and Anatman. Ishvara is a mixture of what? Sorry?
Maya Sahit Brahman.
Maya plus Brahman.
No. Is there a difference between saying Atman and Anatman and Maya and Brahman?
No.
No. So Jiva is a mixture of Atman and Anatma. Ishvara is a mixture of Atman and Anatma. The entire Jagat is what?
Anatma.
Anatma. Therefore, these three face us all the time. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. This is what we refer to in our language as the triangular format. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. Right? Now, after studying Vedanta, what do I say? I, the Jiva, claim that I am Atma. What has been removed from the Jiva Jagat Ishvara triangle?
Anatma.
The Anatma.
No.
Jagat and
The Jiva and the Jagat, the aspect of.
No. When I claim that I am Atma, I, the Jiva, am claiming that I am Ishvara. You understand? Therefore, from the Jiva Jagat Ishvara triangle, Jiva has been dropped because now I am claiming that I am Ishvara. Clear? Remember, Jiva is a mixture of Atman and Anatman. Ishvara is a mixture of Atman and Anatman. What have I done? I have said that, okay, this body of mine is not really a limiting factor. I am really the consciousness principle, the Atma principle in both. It is with that idea that I am the Atma that Jiva can claim that he is Ishvara. He cannot claim from the viewpoint of the body. The Jiva body is very finite. The Ishvara body is infinite. There is no comparison at all. So when you say Aham Brahmasmi, you are claiming I am Ishvara. Therefore, from Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara format, you have dropped the Jiva because you are now claiming I am Ishvara. What is left?
Jagat.
And
Ishvara.
Ishvara, Jagat are left. Ishvara is again, therefore, this Ishvara, Jagat, what is left, if you break it down into its components, what is left? Ishvara is Atma plus Anatma. Entire Jagat is what?
Anatma.
Anatma. Therefore, you can say what is left is Ishvara, Anatma, and Anatma. So, what have you really done? You have reduced the three into Atma and Anatma. Because there is no point in saying Anatma twice. Therefore, Ishvara is Atma plus Anatma. Entire Jagat is Anatma. Therefore, the whole thing has been reduced to Atma and Anatma, which is what we call the binary format. Am I clear? Because we have been using these terms lots of times. Triangular format, binary format. How you reduce from triangular format to binary format, this is the process. The moment you claim that I am Atma, you are basically saying I am Ishvara. And once you have claimed I am Ishvara, then that Jagat is not different from you because Ishvara is Atman plus Anatman. Anatman is equal to Jagat. And therefore, you have reduced the whole creation into Atma and Anatma, which is matter and spirit in matter and consciousness. And this is what we call binary format. Okay. Now, is this the end of the study? By reducing the triangular format to the binary format, is this the end of the study? Is the question.
No,
Why?
Because this is
because
still
for
Dvaita, two.
Advaita, it has to be just
It is
non-dual.
still
Has to
Dvaita,
be.
right?
Yeah.
This Dvaita has to be reduced to Advaita. The only way is for one of these two to swallow the other. Right? Either Atma has to swallow Anatma or Anatma has to swallow Atma. Reducing it to one unit. Then only it is Advaita. And Vedanta says that the Anatma is a dependent entity. Its whole existence depends upon Atma. Therefore, it is Mithya. Whatever is Mithya cannot be counted. Right? When, for example, I go to a restaurant, and you know, these Iranian restaurants, they have mirrors everywhere, right? So I don't know if Iran is still there. Okay, in my days they were there. You go there and then you sit down and big mirror in front of you. So there are two of you. You are there and the guy in the mirror is also there. How many coffees do you order?
One.
Only one.
Because the fellow in the mirror is Mithya. It cannot be
Mm.
counted. Though you are
Mm.
seeing two, you can count only one. It is the same idea here. You are seeing two, the Atma and Anatma, but you cannot count Anatma because he is Mithya. Right? You don't have to order a tea for Anatma or dosa for Anatma. Therefore, whenever you say that Atmamayam Jagat, the, the Mayam here is in terms of a product, right? It's like saying, you know, gold Mayam bangle. The bangle is made out of gold. How many vastus are there? Only one, right? Gold. When you say gold Mayam bangle, you may be saying golden bangle, but you cannot count the bangle because it is again gold. Why is it gold? Because bangle is gold mayam, product of gold. The word suffix mayam is used in the term of product. Therefore, when you say sarvam atmamayam jagat, you are going to not count the jagat. You are going to say there is no such thing called jagat. There is no such thing called anatman. Whatever is consciousness alone, whatever is atma alone, if you give it a name and form, then that is called Jagat. Only the name and form is the addition, both of which are not real entities. Right? Therefore, if matter is mithya, Atman is Satya. I alone am there. When I say Himalayas, what do I mean? I plus the name form of Himalaya. That is I alone. When I say the sun is there, I am saying I plus the sun name and the sun form. I alone am there. And this is called Kaivalya. This is the knowledge that takes one to moksha. And for the next, I think more than almost 30 to 40 verses, this anatma mithyatvam is the topic. And it is very important, you know, because there is a small little saying of Shankaracharya's, you may have heard. Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya. Right? Now, very often people feel that when I say Brahma Satyam, that is all that is to be understood. But in the study of Vedanta, we realize that first you have to say, you have to arrive at the conclusion that Jagan is Mithya. Until you come to the firm understanding that the world is Mithya, to make the leap to Brahman is Satyam is, you know, quite difficult. So you might ask, why can't I just go straight to Brahma Satyam? Why should I come to negate Mithya at all? What is wrong in Dvaita continuing? There is no problem. Let Dvaita continue, but I will understand that I am Brahman alone. when Dvaita continues, there is the continuation of time and space. Right? When Dvaita continues, it means I am accepting Dvaitam as Satyam. If I have understood Dvaitam continuing as Mithya, there is no problem at all. But the understanding that the world is Mithya is extremely important. Normally, the way we have been trained to think is that whatever we see is Satyam. So, of course, we don't see Brahman. And therefore, that is why everybody says only world is real. Because Brahman is not seen. But here we are saying that, assuming that out of a study of Shastram, you accept Brahman, and then you say, fine, Brahman is Satyam, but I see the world also. The world is also Satyam. So, as long as world is there, there will be Desha Kala, time and space. What is the impact of time and space? What is the impact of time and space, Aditi?
It will be
They are
limited.
Coming and going,
It is limiting.
limiting,
Very good. Time and
destruction.
space brings in limitations.
Brings in
Right?
division also, right? Because
Brings in
the
division
minute
and limitations. Exactly. So once Desha Kala comes, once time and space comes, limitations come. Once limitations come, then I have somebody else. I am there and you are there. And when duality is there is always fear. Duality is the very basis for fear. Right? And this space-wise conditioning, what happens? I feel separate. I am spatially separate from somebody else. So I am separate. I am isolated. I am rejected. I am neglected. All these negative problems arise out of the limitation of deshaha, space-wise conditioning. What is the limitation of kalaha? Mortality. And therefore, fear of the Shadvikaras. Shadvikaras basically are because of kala only, right? All the Shadvikaras. It's a progressive deterioration in your physical status. So it creates a fear of old age. It creates the fear of Yamaraj. And that's why in Sushupti Avastha, there is neither Kalaha nor Deshaha. There is no space, there is no time, because your mind is dissolved. And therefore, fear is not there in Sushupti Avastha. Nobody ever gets up and says, I was afraid in Sushupti Avastha. Because mind is never there. Right? So this Sushupti Avastha is very often compared to Moksha. The only difference is it comes and goes. Dvaita is gone during Moksha. Dvaita is also gone during Sushupti Avastha. But once Moksha is done, it doesn't go away. Sushupti Avastha goes away. Right? So at the first stage of teaching which we have arrived at after these 40 verses, there is Atma Anatma only. But you are still in Dvaita. You are still subject to Deshakala, to space and time conditioning. And therefore, you are still subject to all these fears: separation, neglect, old age, death. Right? And therefore, if you have to get out of this conditioning, you have to see that Atma, devours Anatma. Atma swallows Anatma. And this understanding is called Anatma Mithyatvam. Right? And this is what, therefore, this is a question, this verse is a question raised by a student. He says, Hey Acharya, iti atma deha bhagena. Iti, in this manner, which manner? As discussed in the last 39-40 verses, Hey Acharya, you have Atma and Deha Bhagena. You have separated Atma and Deha. So Deha here has to be taken as the entire Anatma Prapancha, not just the body. Right? And then he says, Prapanchasya eva satyata. However, the entire Atma is also real. Because you have not said Atma is not real. You have just separated. You have just said Atma is different, Anatma is different. And that is not real Vedantic teaching. Because there are two things in life, and whenever there are two things in life, there is a problem. And then he quotes from other what they call darshanas. He says yathoktaha. This is also said yatha uktaha. This is also said tarka shastrena in tarka shastram, right? Tarka shastra has two darshanas, nyaya darshana and vaisheshika darshana. What is their speciality? Both of them talk about the same division, anatma and atma. The difference is that Vedanta says there are two things, but the second thing, anatma, is mithya. So there really is only one thing. While Nyaya and Vaisheshika both say that Atma is Satyam, Anatma is also Satyam. In fact, they divide the world into uh, 9 materials. So Pancha Mahabhutani is one, Desha, Kala, Manas, and Atma. So 9 of them. 5 Pancha Mahabhutani, Desha 6, Kala 7, Mind 8, Atman 9. What is the speciality here? You got Atma as one of the 9 materials. Panchamahabhutani, Desha, Kala, Manaha, Atma. Right? And therefore all are considered equally real. So this student says, Tatah kim purusharthata? What is the benefit? What is the purushartha that I am getting out of your teaching? Right? So Vedanta points out here that all darshanas take Dvaita as real. And we also have said that whoever takes Dvaita as real, he will be in samsara. And therefore, if you take Dvaita as real, there is no point of the study because you are still in samsara. Earlier, you were an uneducated samsari. Now you are an educated samsari. And therefore, the teacher has to say that this Atma Anatma Viveka is not the final step. It is an intermediary step. And there's one more step where you have to say there is no Anatma and there is no Dvaita at all. And do you remember which is the verse in the Bhagavad Gita which talks about this? Bhagavad Gita doesn't talk about this too many times, but there's one very important verse where it says this. That there is no Anatma at all. Anybody?
Is it in chapter 10?
No. Come on, guys. How many of you attended the TTC? Nobody, is it?
I have attended, but I have forgotten.
Well, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi,
Okay.
Brahmanano Brahmanartham. Everything is Brahman alone.
Brahmaivat.
Right? It's a very important verse. Okay. Now let us look at verse number 42. We will chant. Ityatma deha bhedena
इत्यात्मदेहभेदेन
देहभेदेन
dehatmatvam nivaritam
देहात्मत्वं
देहात्मत्वं
निवारितम्
idanim deha bhedasya
इदानीं
इदानीं
देहभेदस्य
देहभेदस्य
hi satyatvam sputamuchyate.
ह्यसत्त्वं
ह्यसत्त्वं
स्फुटमुच्यते
स्फुटमुच्यते.
Okay, so we have come from binary form to from triangular format to binary format. We have reduced the entire creation into Atman and Anatman. Right? So I am, when I say the whole creation is Atman, Anatman, remember the word Atma means I. So I have reduced the whole, you have to restate that sentence. In this binary format, what has happened is, I have reduced the entire creation into two things. I, the observer, the consciousness principle, So you have to replace the word Atman by saying I. I, the observer, and everything else in creation. There are two things. So Drik and Drishyam. The seer and the seen. This is the basic binary format. And so here he says, iti, in this manner, in which manner? In the last 40 verses, bhedena, by distinguishing atma deha. By atma and anatma we have distinguished. And iti, in this manner, what have we done? Deha atmatvam nivaritam. Deha atmatvam means the idea that I am deha. Right? Atmatvam is my nature. Deha atmatvam means the notion that I am the body. Nivaritam is negation or removal. So, iti atma deha bhedena, by this process of atma anatma viveka, what have I done? Dehatmatvam nivaritam. I have removed the basic notion I have always had that I am this body. Right? Therefore, I have to transform myself with the understanding that I am not this body which is a form, but I am the Atman which has no form. Right? So, transformation of myself is nothing but transcending the form. That's what, in fact, a very nice word. Transform. Transcending the form. The form is the body. So when I say I am not the body, I have gone beyond the body. I have transcended the form. Right? So first assumption is, first understanding is that I have removed the notion that I am the body. And then he says, idanim, now. Idanim means now. Now what do I have to do? Deha bhedasya hi asattatvam. Asatvam. Asatvam deha bhedasya hi. I have to establish that deha is asat, is mithya. Right? Now, when you say asat here, you have to be very careful. In the scriptural usage of the term asat, asat literally means unreal. In the scriptural usage, asat has two divisions. You remember from Gita classes? What are they?
Tuchha Rupa
Sorry.
Asat.
Yes. And
I always forget that other word. Tuchha Rupa Asat.
in fact, the other one is more commonly used.
Mithya.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are two, Tuchha Rupa Asat and Mithya Rupa Asat.
Yes.
What is Tuchha Rupa Asat?
False. That which is false.
Is
Rabbit's
Which cannot
horns.
have, which cannot
Example of
exist.
rabbit's
Which does
horn.
not
which
exist
is
at all, right?
at
Such a
all.
thing
Yeah.
does not exist. A rabbit's horn is a common experience. Is a common example. You can also say the
Barren woman's
example
child.
barren. Yeah. So we, rather than saying barren woman, you can say the child of a woman who doesn't have a child, childless woman, right? So the moment you say a childless woman's child, that childless woman's child cannot exist by the very definition, and therefore it is Tuchha Rupa Asat. So Vedanta says Tuchha Rupa Asat is an area which we are not getting into. Vedanta says that we are not questioning the experience of a particular object. You can experience anything. We will never question that. A Vedantic will never question, can I see the sun rising? What will you question?
What powers the sun to rise?
Now, when I come and tell you that I have seen the sun rising, you will never say no. As a Vedantic, you will never tell me no, you cannot have possibly seen the sun rising, because that is a experience. So you don't question the experience. What do you question?
Sun is always there. So
what is it
there
that you're
is no.
questioning?
But the experience is not there all the time. So it comes and goes.
No.
Whether
You
the
guys are,
experience.
Rising part is the question.
yeah, very good. So what is it that you are questioning? You are not questioning the experience, the perception of the sun rising. You are questioning the conclusion that sun rises. Right? And therefore, in any experience, Vedanta will never question your experience. It will only question the conclusion that whatever you experience is real. That is a conclusion. That conclusion is always questioned. That's why he says, Futam Uchyate. This idea I am going to teach you very clearly. And there
સરાની
is,
ક્યારે નાખો છો? નાઈને નાખો દવા પછી 2 મિનિટ આંખો બંધ નહીં રાખતા હોય.
okay. So remember that this method of teaching is a particular method available to Vedantic teachers and Vedantic students. It's called Adhyaropa Apavada method, the superimposition negation method. This is the Shankaracharya Sampradaya. You have to follow this method to understand the Vedantic teaching, and that you are going to see. We will chant the 43rd verse. Chaitanya Saikarupatvat
चैतन्यस्यैकरूपत्वात्
Vedo Yukto na Karhichit
भेदो युक्तो न कर्हिचित्
It's Karhichit, okay? Vedo Yukto na Karhichit
भेदो युक्तो न कर्हिचित्
Jivatvam Chamrishagnyeyam
जीवत्वं न मृषाज्ञेयम्
Rajjau Sarpagraho Yatha.
रज्जौ सर्पग्रहो यथा
Okay. Now, when you say the jiva consists of what? Tattvabodha terms.
Atma and Anatma.
Agreed. But in terms of the
RM and
Tattvabodha
OC.
terms, sorry?
RM and OC.
Correct. The jiva is actually the RC. Now here it's a very, we say 3 portions, RM and OC, right? What does the combination give you?
RC.
So
Jiva.
when you say jiva, you are actually saying reflected consciousness. When you say RC, there are 2 more entities present. You never forget. RC has, whenever you say RC, RM is there and OC is there. So actually speaking, the moment you say jiva, you should mentally understand it's not just 2 portions, there are 3 portions. The RM and the RC, because how can you say that OC is also there in RM and RC? What is the one quality of the OC because of which you have to accept?
OC is
Sorry?
everywhere.
Sarvagata.
Sarvagata.
Sarvagataha. So the moment you say RC, you are saying there's a RM. You have to accept that because of OC's Sarvagataha principle, all pervading nature, OC has to be present. And therefore the jiva is not combination of RM and OC alone. The jiva is the RC, RM and OC. It requires a bit of understanding because when we say RM and OC, automatically you say RC. In the mirror, when you see the face, of course, it's not a very good example, okay? But when I see the face in the mirror, how many things are there?
That reflection, mirror, and eye. The original.
The mirror, the reflection, and the eye. Without all the 3, the reflection will not be there. What is the limitation in this example?
The mirror cannot be everywhere.
No. The limitation of the example is that you are
I-
not Sarvagata.
sir.
Your face
Yes.
is not Sarvagata, right? So it's not a complete example because your face is not inside the mirror. But here, the OC is there in the body. What is the OC in the body called?
Sakshi.
Sakshi. OC recognizable in the heart is called the Sakshi. Okay. So Sakshi is always there. The Jiva is three pieces. Always. Okay. Now, because of the fact that the RC cannot be there unless the OC is there and the RM is there, the RC is dependent upon the OC and the RM, and therefore RC is Mithya also. Right? So he says, Chaitanyasya Ekarupatva. Chaitanyasya means because of the fact Chaitanyam is Ekarupam, is one only. Because the fact consciousness is one only, what is the conclusion? This is the hypothesis, Hetu, as they call it. Consciousness is one only. We are accepting this fact. What is the conclusion? Bhedo na karhichit yuktaha. You can never say there is any bhedaha, plurality of consciousness. Consciousness is one only. You can never say there is any multiple consciousness. Therefore, jivatvam mrishagnyayam. Therefore, the plurality of consciousness, which he is calling jivatvam. What is jivatvam? You think that there are multiple jivas when there are actually only multiple bodies. And therefore, you say there are multiple jivas, referring to the consciousness principle as multiple. So he is saying jivatvam mrisha gayam. Mrisha means incorrect or error. Gnayam is understood. Therefore, jivatvam mrisha gnayam, the plurality of consciousness as multiple jivas is incorrectly understood. What is the correct understanding? The plurality which I experience. I am not disputing the experience of as if multiple consciousnesses because there are multiple bodies which are conscious. Therefore, the plurality which I experience, like experiencing multiple reflections, is because of the reflecting medium, because of the bodies, not because there is any plurality in the original consciousness. If there are 10 mirrors, there will be 10 suns in the mirror, 10 reflected suns. It doesn't mean there are 10 original suns. So the Surya Pratibimba, the reflected suns are many, but the original sun is one only. Right. And therefore, you find that as the bodies come and go, you think that consciousness comes and goes. That is not true. Consciousness is one. It is the reflection which comes and goes. And therefore, Jiva is Mithya. It is not Satyam. And therefore, he says, Yatha Rajau Sarpagriha Yatha. Yatha Rajau. Just as the snake, just as the rope. Rajau is the rope. Yatha Rajau. Just as the snow, as the rope, which is the Satyam, what happens? Sarpagraho Yatha is wrongly understood, grasped as a snake. What is the reality? It is a Rajau, the rope. But Yatha Sarpagraho, you have wrongly understood as a snake, and therefore you think the snake is real also. Okay, any questions so far?
Ravi, I have the same confusion always every time I clarify and I come back to that again. So I'm really sorry to ask the question. So these two examples, this Rajo and Sarpa is the most difficult example for me because there is never that snake existed.
Correct.
Only the problem was in that knowledge, wrong knowledge was there.
Correct.
So, but in case of these multiple mirrors, their
Yeah.
mirrors exist.
No,
And that's why we see the,
they don't
so I'm
exist.
not talking, yeah. No, mirrors exist.
No, they
Sun is
don't.
one.
No, they don't. The mirror, if you take it as your body, it is mithya.
Yes, yes, that is what I'm saying. That this physical example when we're giving, so there are mirrors or different bowl, water container, but sun is
I
one
told
that.
you, physical example have the limitation.
Yes, yes, yes.
The best example is Rajyo Sarpaha. The
Yes.
Mithyastvam example, best is Rajyo Sarpaha. And that is the example in which you're confused. You should be confused with the other ones. Rajyo Sarpaha is the best example of Anatma Atma. Because Anatma doesn't exist. Just like the snake. But in the case of mirror and multiple, both exist. The level of reality of the mirror, of the reflection of the mirror and your face is the same. Both are Vyavaharika. But in the case of Rajyo Sarpaha, the
Yeah.
Sarpaha is not Vyavaharika. Yes, it doesn't exist at all.
Existing, yeah. Yes, yes.
That's the difference.
So even this is not dependent existence, right?
Dependent existence, dependent on the ignorance.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Okay, let's look at, no problem, you just keep on meditating upon it. One day it'll all be clear. Okay, it's not very easy.
Om Acharya,
Yes, please.
in some other class we had said that the snake is potential is there in the rope. That is why we are perceiving the rope to be the snake. Eh, Did I hear that correctly? It was
No,
not in one of our.
no, you
It
did
was
not hear it
from.
correctly.
Yeah, so
The
that's
rope
what that
cannot
was.
have the potential to produce a snake. That potential
Right,
is because
exactly.
of the ignorance.
Yes, yes. And I
Okay.
heard that incorrectly. Yes, thank you.
Let's look at verse number 44, the last one for today. We will chant. Rajvagnanakshanaiva
Jnanakshanaiva
Rajurhi sarpini
Rajurhi
Rajurhi
sarpini
sarpini
Ati tadvachittihi
Bhati tadvatihi
Sakshat Vishwakarena Kevala.
Sakshat Vishwakarena.
Okay. Now, the Shruti has conveyed that Atma is Jagat Karanam. It is the cause of the universe, creator, Ishvara, all that. And therefore, from this Atma alone, the Panchamahabhutani has come. From the Panchamahabhutani, the whole Jagat has come. All the physical bodies are born from Atma only. Right? Now the question is Atma the intelligent cause or the material cause? Right? So the Nimitta Karanam is called the intelligent cause. Upadana Karanam is called the material cause. Whenever you say that Atma is Nimitta Karanam, you are saying Atma creates the universe. But if you say that Atma is Upadana Karanam, we say Atma became the universe, got converted into the universe. Right? And if Atma is Upadana Karanam, then what are you saying? Atman has become the universe. What is the problem with that statement? That Atma is Upadana Karanam. It's a very, very subtle idea we are conveying. The moment you say Atma is Upadana Karanam, you are saying Atma is changing into the universe. Do you see any problem?
The change.
Yes, it cannot become anything. It's
No.
there is no becoming there.
Okay, you have to learn to think quickly on your feet. When you say Atma has changed into universe, remember universe is Anatma. Therefore, you are saying Atma has become Anatma. That is the problem. Right? And as you said, Atma cannot change because it is Nirvikaraha. So in one place, Shruti says Atma became Anatma. In another place, Shruti says Atma is Nirvikaraha. It is a contradiction. So this is a question raised by Aparoksha. He says, your Shruti is full of contradictions. How can in one case Atma become Anatma, which means Atma is subject to Vikara, Savikara. And then you're saying Atma is Nirvikara. It's an absolute straight out contradiction. So, of course, what is the understanding for Vedantic? Veda can never contradict. Whatever is a seeming contradiction can always be explained, and that is being explained here. So, Rajvajnanat. So, Rajvajnanat is, you have to break it very carefully. Rajju Ajnanat. Don't think it is Rajvajnana. Rajju Ajnanat. Because of ignorance of the snake, of the rope, Rajju Ajnanat, because of ignorance of the rope, Yadvat Rajjuhi Sarpini Shanenaiva. Yadvat, because of that, Rajjuhi, the rope, Shanenaiva, instantly Sarpini appears as the snake. Why? What is the reason? The reason is embedded in your ignorance of the nature of the rope. Right? Now, what is the status of an erroneous object? Of an error? This is what we are talking about. Should we put the error in a non-existent category or an existent category? This is a big discussion. Okay. I don't think we have enough time for that discussion in this class. So I will stop here because I would not like it to be very, casually dealt with. We will need some more time. So I will stop here. In the next class, we will start from this verse again. Any questions?
Om Raviji, could you
Yeah.
kindly explain the example of the sun and the question of the Vedantin once again? Just
The sun is one, right? There are various reflected suns and say 20 mirrors, 20 reflected suns are there. So the question is, the plurality of the reflected suns is perceiving, we are seeing.
Sorry, I'm just pausing you here. I'm asking about the one which you said before that, where you said that you see the sun rising, the sun is there, and what
Okay,
is the...
okay. You see the sun rising, and before science came into being, the usual understanding was that sun rises and sun sets, because that is perception.
Right.
But it is the science which told you that sun doesn't rise, sun doesn't set, sun doesn't move at all. It is the earth which is turning around on its axis. And because of the turning movement of the earth, it appears that the sun rises. So the perception of sun rising and sun setting is negated by the understanding, the knowledge that it does not. Idea is that perception need not correspond to knowledge. Perception can never negate knowledge. Knowledge can negate perception.
Right. So, in that particular specific example that you were trying to say, you were saying, what is it that the Vedantin would...
Vedanta would ask you,
would not...
when you say, I saw the sun rising, Vedanta will not tell you, no, you did not see the sun rising. Vedanta will tell you, saw the sun rising, all right. But your conclusion that sun rises is wrong. It does not rise or set.
Okay, yes, I see you.
All right, so with this, we'll stop for today. Oh, Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience. Om.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And